So, welcome to the next edition of Global Dream Circles podcast. Stephen Altair and I are here today, and we thought it would be fun to come on and just record a chat about Contact 250. It happened in Sedona last month, and we're about a month away from the experience. So, maybe share some experiences that we had there, some reflections, and perhaps any other insights that came through during the event as well as perhaps after. So, welcome, my dear friend.
Hey, Lisa, and love and blessings to everybody listening in on this podcast. We're truly honored to have you, and we hope, like us, that you are very avid dreamers, visionaries, and that you're just as curious as us about what might arise from this podcast.
So, how about you kick it off and just talk about you were pretty much on the entire weekend holding space for that connection. And what was that like for you? What's your recovery time like from an event like that?
That's funny.
Yeah. And then
Uh,
just what were some of your highlights?
Yeah, well, the part that I really love, I think that I naturally gravitate to groups. So when in a sense, I never feel like I'm guiding the group. I feel like the group is guiding me. I really love collective wisdom. So in that sense, I don't actually run out of battery because I could keep doing it forever because I'm simply riding or surfing along with the flow of a group energy, and people are so healing, opening, sustaining, connecting, sharing. It's really wonderful. So when I I do a guidance and then people share afterwards, when they share, I kind of get recharged because I hear all the beautiful elements of the practices that have arisen for them, and of course I'm learning from their wisdom at the same time. So one thing is that the collective energy actually recharges me. I don't really think about recovery time. I remember I did 2 weeks of retreats in Dubai and Switzerland, and I simply went, and I was doing them from 8 o'clock in the morning till 8 o'clock at night, and I'd simply get recharged by the feedback. And I think that's quite useful. That's in the sense that I don't own anything. I don't own any wisdom. I'm not trying to take responsibility for taking people anywhere. I simply guide, and then I listen, and the way that people share informs me and kind of activates my energy field as well. So there's that. I mean, some of the beautiful takeaways were, I think that everybody that came felt uplifted. And a lot of people spoke very genuinely and deeply about some of the beautiful experiences they'd had. So a couple of things that happened. We went out for a UFO tour, and we saw these 30 or so craft, and there were about 30 because we counted them. So there were more than 28. I know that. And they rose in a particular way that then a few nights later, when we actually did the Contact 250 group gathering, that these particular craft rose in exactly the same way. And to those of you listening, if you haven't seen this kind of phenomenon, the craft, that you can imagine a mountain, a little bit like Close Encounters, if you've seen that movie. There's a mountain, the craft rise from behind the mountain, and then they stay there in front of your eyes, and they power up, for lack of a better word. In other words, they expand the energy field around that craft, so it starts to glow amber, and then in front of your eyes it'll vanish. So it literally it's quite fabulous, and people get very excited naturally, because you're witnessing a connection in whatever form that is. And I think my big takeaway from those gatherings is that many different types of experiences arise. It's not just about connecting with ETs, because I always call ETs extraordinary things. In other words, that includes us. We're also ETs. I mean, obviously, if you take your home planet, let's say you're from the Pleiades, and you're here on Earth, then actually you are already an ET. So you're already an extra terrestrial, where terrestrial is actually your home planet in the Pleiades, for example. So I often think about that in terms of reverse logic. And I also love the fact that people have connections with many different types of energy forms. So they might get messages from animals, like you often do, Lisa, and I often do. And so we were very aware that there were lots of signs from, for example, when Zenka and I and the group were driving me to the airport, we got lots of signs from birds and very significant signs. I won't go too much into that because it was quite an impactful event. So we had lots of signs from the animals and the birds. So I think the nature sings to us, and not just nature in terms of animals, nature in terms of energy from trees, from mountains. You start to feel things in a different way. We went out to a vortex at the very beginning of the week, and everybody felt the energy rising up from the earth in this one particular place that had been identified as the highest frequency vortex in all of Sedona, and you could definitely feel it. I felt that movement right through my body. So the what I call ETs, which is the extraordinary things, arise in many different ways. And equally, people who had successes in spoon bending, or radios that were responding to instructions, or that were actually reacting to keywords like love, or were also reacting to when the ships arose, the radios, which had been completely silent, suddenly go berserk. I mean, it's really, I think the synchronicities and the signs of in all their forms are really what this is about. And so then I'm going to segue to dreaming, so I can hand back to you on this, is that then coming right into the dreaming part of the practices that we're doing, one of the things that I was particularly excited by was the experiences that people shared after we did after you'd done the directions practice, and I did some basic lucid dreaming practice. There was a really genuine sharing in the days that followed about ways people had co-dreamed or dream shared, or had a visionary experience in a dream and had been, it had helped them with some part of life, or they had got more adept at being able to access their dreams and remember them. So I think all of that became very, very obvious and clear. And so I think that part, the way that the experiences of people actually help to bring wisdom is really what this is all about. And once again, an ET is also a lucid dream, because it's an extraordinary thing. It's something that's really pure and special and really extraordinary, because we're the extraordinary beings, and we're helping to access our extraordinary faculties through all these different techniques and practices. So what was it like for you, Lisa, with to share a little bit about about the experience, but also about the nature? We did lots of walks in nature with different groups. People were going at different times, and also your own practices and the beautiful sharing that you did.
Yeah, I think it was a perfect balance for me of spiritual practices and then being on the land, being in nature, connecting. I'd been asking for permission and to meet the spirits of the land, which is just a customary practice that I appreciate. And that night, after we had our dream circle and we had our lucid dreaming practices, I was blessed by this poignant meeting of one, and who looked very human and like Native American. And he was putting a blanket over me that looked like kind of like an X-ray blanket. Like if you go to the dentist, those X-ray blankets that they put over you. I didn't
I know
understand
that.
the symbolism of it, but as I was sort of being tucked into bed, and then the next day on my hike was very present to that energy, and just being guided all along the way. I'll say that two things that really stuck out for me being there. I've been receiving in my own connections with ETs how important and significant it is to be human, to be here on this blue star, to be part of the human star nation. Um, and I know that I think myself, as well as probably a lot of people on the spiritual journey, will kind of have these excarnation habits where, gosh, I just don't feel like I'm from here. This place doesn't resonate with me, or it doesn't feel like home. And it's been a journey of really deepening in, no, this is home. And I heard others reflecting that same message. Like, well, first of all, I noticed that people were able to make those connections and communications through the heart. And then the feedback that I remember a few talking about was that very same, like, be kind to each other, take care of one another. So it was like not some huge revelatory, piece of wisdom, except for it was deeply profound wisdom. Just take care of each other. And an important message, as we were just talking about before we started recording, for the world today. And then since then, my own dream practices and just practicing lucidity in the wake time has exponentially increased. Just the playing with this idea of lucid form. I don't know if it's something you can ever master, but just playing with it and seeing into it and seeing through that, I guess, kind of veil of whatever it is that we call reality, which is really why we do this dream work, to wake up, to really wake up. So I think those are the things that are still kind of with me. I absolutely love standing under the stars in such a beautiful setting. And, kudos to Zenka and her crew at LightNet for getting us set up outside, because it just made all the difference to do a dream circle out under the stars. And then the lucid dream work going into that right after at night, when people are already just a little bit tired and it's easier for them to kind of drowse and go into those dream spaces. Yeah, that was remarkable. That was a really meaningful experience to dream together. And I guess the other insight that continues to present is the earth dreaming and the seeds of dreaming that are within the earth, based on some shamanic journeys that I've done and continuing awarenesses that come. I think I'm more in curiosity than I am about knowledge, with very little direct revelation about it at this stage. Okay, well, maybe more than I think, but yeah, it was absolutely wonderful. It was just a truly, truly remarkable experience. I would do it again in a heartbeat. It's so fun to see the craft. And like you said, the way you described it, the way that you saw it, I have no direct revelation about this, but to me, it almost looked like they just materialized and then they would slip into another dimension.
Exactly.
And then another one would come and then they would slip back into another dimension. Like, is there some type of a star portal that they're accessing, to come through?
Exactly. I'm with you on all of that. I do want to, like you, emphasize what you did when you were standing on Zenka's porch and you were in the stars, and that was one of the highlights, because we didn't, apart from going out to see craft under the stars, that was the other starlit opportunity. It was real magical. And I think that's why then the lucid dreaming, it felt like we were lucid dreaming together under the stars, because you'd made it an important moment to go out on the porch to do the directional work, the shamanic work, which was just so brilliant. So I think that exactly, that added so much to the ambience, to the atmosphere, as if we were dreaming with the earth and the stars. It wasn't just us. I think that's the thing that does become the extraordinary thing, is you really realize the seeds you're dreaming are not just in you, but they're in us as a collective. And they're not just in us as a collective, but they're in the earth as a collective. And they're not just in the earth and us, but they're in the stars and the earth and us. And it's like we're dreaming with all of that at the same time. That was truly magical. So yeah, thank you. the whole opportunity to share that, be part of that. Like you said, I do it again in a heartbeat as well. And and I am curious about those portals that those ships shifted in and out of, because like you, it was very obvious when they seemed to move just a little, and then suddenly moving in not linear fashion, and then would suddenly slip back into wherever they'd come from. It was really fantastic. Very and I'm aware that when you're in a group and the group sees that, of course the group gets very excited, and then the coherence, because we were working with a love coherence, with pulsing love, or with sharing with love. And then of course, when the excitement comes out, you slip out of that coherence for a while. And then at that point, of course, those craft then, there were no more that appeared. And I was very aware that it was pointing right back to our own wisdom. When we're really in coherence and love, amazing opportunities happen, and we're able to access and open portals, or able to just simply be present to those portals when they open. So potentially they're there all the time. That's always the thing. I think we're not, in a sense, we're opening what's already present, and then just simply by really strong, coherent practices of love and doing them as a collective. And I think that's a big message for our planet at the moment, when there's a lot of incoherence and a lot of conflict that perhaps is not rooted in love. I think that's a big wake-up call for humanity, that we need to be focusing on just simply bringing love to our fellow, and kindness to our fellow human beings, no matter what. And that supersedes everything, including all religions and political aims and anything else. That fundamentally, the kindness towards women, children, the elderly, the men and women of this planet and their families, so that supersedes everything else. That's our United Nations Security Council should be called the United Nations Love Council, because it needs to actually start from that basis. Security can't. It's clearly, there is no security without love and kindness. So it hasn't succeeded yet, and so clearly its values are not founded yet in a way that every person on the planet can embrace. So it's hopefully, we're working towards it in kind of tribute to the way that humanity is working. I think we're working towards it, but I think it's very challenging.
Yeah.
And just those simple, so that was my biggest takeaway. When we were in love, and as a collective, when we were in coherence, we could actually naturally access what was already present, which essentially allows us to cross worlds or be present to portals that are already there that we hadn't seen because we just weren't vibrating at that frequency. And then when we were, there they were.
Yeah, I was particularly struck by how much they wanted to be seen, and also really aware of the nervous system and its capacity for shock and awe, such as that. And I love how you said extraordinary things, because it really stands to reason that there's so many other extraordinary things to experience together from that place of coherence.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
I'm going to ask you a kind of a tough question, but not really. Um, if someone was just kind of listening and said, "Oh God, all of this love stuff sounds so mamby-pamby," but yet something deeper in them says, "But I wonder if it's real," how would they perhaps begin to open their heart, their mind, if they've no real practice of it? What's a suggestion that could be helpful?
Yeah, here's a really easy suggestion. It comes from IFS, from internal family systems, and it's just a really simple practice you can do to love, right? I always advise people to start off by breathing in a sense of calmness and love. And if you think, well, I'm not quite sure how to do that exactly, think of a simple example of love in your life. So this could be when you held a pet that you really loved, or you're sitting on your grandma's litany, or you're just even out in nature in a space that you love, or a time in childhood that you really loved, right? It doesn't have to be anything particularly grand, just really simple. And you inhale the feeling from that memory, and you exhale a sense of peace and love to all your cells. Now, that simple breath of love then allows you to rest for a moment and to find the part of you that is questioning about love, right? Because inside all of us, so I totally empathize with that. Inside all of us, we might look at the world situation and say, but where is love really? It's just there. How can it solve these conflicts? So there's a part in all of us that questions that is doubting, right? Or that it's anxious about love, or that it's feeling lost or sad. So you want to allow a little space for that anxious part and get to know it. So you just simply say, you speak to that part of you and say, hey, you know what? Sadness or worry, that your worried part, say, I'm here for you. I'm totally here for you. So the beginning part of love is just presence, to actually be present with that part without pushing it away. So we all have that anxious, lost, sad, or worried part. So you just reach out and say, hey, I'm here for you. I'm always here. Now, so the foundations of love are just simply being present for another human being, actually just being present, even without kindness or without compassion, just actually being present, just saying, hey, look, I'm here. I might not necessarily understand you. I might not feel like I've got boundless, compassionate, or infinite love, but I can actually be here for you. And you start with yourself. And and that part might arise in you as like a little kid. It might come from childhood when you didn't feel that loved, or you felt alone, or you felt like when a parent said to you, love is namby-pamby, or love doesn't solve anything, right? So you reach out and you take hold of the hand of that child in you, that part. So you're being like a good inner parent, and you're parenting that child of anxiousness or sadness or loss, or just even insecurity, or a feeling of not being safe. And you just say, hey, I'm here for you. What can I do? And then ask that child in you, what do you need? And when you say, what do you need? You just listen. And that child might say, oh gosh, I just want to breathe, or I feel suffocated by everything that's happening in the world, or I feel like there's no space. So you say, okay, well, I'm just going to let you have a little space. Come and breathe with me. Sometimes I take my inner child and go and sit in the playground and swing on the swings, right? You might actually and I'm talking about physically, you might actually want to do something that you used to love to do as a kid. And it activates love in a very physical way that's not namby-pamby, and that you actually have a direct felt and embodied sense of. And then if that part does that, then just encourage a little bit more space for that part to come. So you kind of rest back and you just say, hey, I'm giving you more space to come and share with me, to let me know the times that you're in trouble, to let me know the times you feel a little bit lonely and unheard, right? Because sometimes we don't listen to our own parts that feel unhappy or sad or lost. Yeah. So then you just rest for a while, and you rest in that open. So what you're feeling is what it's like to bring this true self that knows how to be present, that knows how to bring a little bit more compassion, a little bit more kindness, and a little bit more love for yourself. And it's a really simple practice, and it's lovely to do. So there you go. That was helpful.
That was beautiful. I think anybody could be helped by that. Thank you.
Yeah, well, look, thank you. It's been wonderful, as always, Lisa, to be a
Absolutely.
part of this with you.
And we have our next live Global Dream Circle event coming up mid-December, and we'll be sure to share that. So if folks want to come along and connect with extraordinary things, perhaps their own extraordinary beingness, then perhaps they'd like to come attend and participate. So thank you so much, my
Thank
dear
you too.
friend. And as always, just a pleasure connecting. So much insight and wisdom that you share so freely.
You too, dear Lisa. You have so much wisdom and so many powers of, I always think you are the true Celtic shaman for all of us. So thank you for being there. Thank you for being the light and the love that we all adore.
That's it.
Oh my God!
Please come.
Wow, thank you! Thank you for being here with us! Oh my God, yeah! It looks like they're coming for us!
Please come.
Oh wow!
We're ready.
Thank you! Oh
It
my
just
God,
faded out.
See how it
That's another one, right?
Archangels,
Wow.
archangels, archangels.
Thank you! Thank you!
Archangels, archangels, archangels. Please guide the ships.
Wow!
Please guide the ships
Wow!
for close encounter.
That
Please
was
guide the
really
ships.
cool, guys. That's
Did you get
too
that on
visible.
too
I-
visible?
No, I didn't get it.
Archangels, archangels, archangels.
That was
Oh my
really
guys,
great
please.
for the visible eye. That was thank
Guide
you guys. Thank
the
you.
ships.
Did everybody see that?
Guide the ships of peace and love
Woo!
for our close encounters. This is
So
Grand
right.
Commander Shen. Short for shenanigans.
Yeah, no clouds. Yeah, so stars don't disappear and planes don't
Come on, make
disappear
us laugh.
either. Wow.